reconcile stuff like this? How do you make sense? How do you process? This accident pretty much changed my life. Severe dislocations of my right foot, right ankle, lost all the soft tissue on my heel because it ran along the ground. A toe traumatically amputated. I had a crushed left ankle that took a bone graft from my hip to rebuild an ankle joint with 4 plates and 18 screws. A broken hip joint, broken pelvis, broken ribs, broken hand, 3rd-degree burns, a lacerated liver. For good measure, the blood transfusions were laced with hepatitis C, and for real good measure, by the time I left the hospital, I was completely hooked on opioids. And so when things like this happen, how do you reconcile stuff like this? How do you make sense out of something like this? How do you process an accident like this? The simple answer is with great difficulty. I had friends come into my hospital room and they would ask, are you going to go back racing again? An even more pointed question would be, why would you ever consider going back to a sport that almost killed you? The doctors told me with the reconstruction of my left leg, the chances are I would have pain every day for the rest of my life. I had 3rd-degree burns that required my wounds to be dressed twice a day. I had a mental block against skin grafting. The doctor said, we got to do a skin graft on your arm. I said, no. It was so painful, I didn't want them to take a slice off my ass and then my arm and my ass would be painful. It was the wrong decision because it took 9 months for the wound to heal. I went to physical therapy as often as possible, twice a day when I could stand it. See the red arrow? That points to a strap on my left foot. And the doctor said, as soon as you wake up after surgery, pull the strap all day, every day, because you have to make a new joint in your left ankle around the new bone transplant that we did from your hip. Would I go back? And it was a difficult question to answer until I remembered the conversation that I had with my dad when I was 12 years of age, when I told him I wanted to become a professional race car driver. And back then he told me 2 things. He said, I will help you in every possible way with your career, as long as it isn't financial help you need. I knew exactly what that meant. And then he said, always remember, you'll be responsible for the legacy that you leave in the sport. That meant nothing to me back then, until this accident. I realized I would never want this accident to be the legacy that I would leave in the sport that I dedicated my life to. And if this accident wasn't to be the legacy, I had to recover. I had to get back fit. I had to get race fit. I had to go to physical therapy. I had to get mentally fit. I had to find a sponsor. I had to find another race team. I had to get back into a race car and be able to leave on my own terms. All because of that one word, legacy, from my dad. And then I realized we're all in control of the legacy that we leave, right? Everywhere, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in our families, we all have complete control of the legacy that we leave. And I would almost bet everybody in this room has crashed at some stage. I bet everybody here at some stage has hit the wall. But when something bad happens, it doesn't have to be inherently negative, because it all depends on the mindset that you approach it with. You know, they say you're never beaten when you're knocked down, you're only beaten when you stay down. Setbacks never celebrated, but comebacks are. What drove me was the word legacy to get back into a race car. 8 months after my accident, with the assistance of a walking cane, an 1.5-inch heel lifts built into my racing boots because I couldn't walk on my ankles, I qualified again for the Indy 500 and actually had the best finish of my career that year at the Indy 500. All because of that word legacy. So let me ask everybody a question here. if there was a book written about a firm, and if there was a chapter in it about you or your team, what would you like it to say?